Let's go ahead and begin. You get 2 minutes. We'll start with former Congressman Jerry Carl here, and then we'll move down. Each will get 2 minutes, your opening remarks.
Thank you, Jeff, and happy birthday again. My name is Jerry Carl, and yes, I am running for the Congressional District 1. This district runs from Dauphin Island to Dothan. You are interviewing 7 different candidates tonight for that job. This is an interview, so we hope we all do well. What do I have to offer? My resume reads as follows. 40 years of business for myself. Healthcare, pharmacy, land development, and some timber. I spent 8 years in county government. In county government, I learned infrastructure, I learned financing, I learned of a city and a county, and of course the most expensive line item on most all counties is the jail itself and the sheriff's department. Very important, our law enforcement. And then I was privileged enough to be elected as your congressman for 2 terms in District 1. The 2 terms period of time, I've done a lot. I served on Armed Service Committee. We were able to secure numerous boats for the Austin shipyard and kept some folks busy working at the shipyard, worked closely with Airbus, worked with the tourist industry over in Baldwin County. Most people don't realize the 61,000 people a day that move in and out of Baldwin County, and the infrastructure that we have desperately needs more. So I've got experience. I was on appropriations, through appropriations, I was able to, for Baldwin County, for example, the city of, I think it was not Elba, but we paved a lot of roads over in Baldwin County. We're able to raise money for roads and water projects. You cannot misuse taxpayers' money when you start talking about the infrastructure projects that we do. I would appreciate your vote May the 19th, and I'm here to prove it. Tonight's the night. My name's Jerry Carl. God bless.
James?
I'd like to be called Jimmy, so I'm Jimmy Dees. Again, running for Congressional House District 1. Married. My wife's here with me tonight. First time she's been able to make it. And she endorsed me. By the way, my wife doesn't like a lot of people, so I was quite impressed that she said that she would support me on this. And, we have 3 children. We have 2 grandchildren. For the past 16 years, this nation has been governed by executive orders. And Congress has done nothing about immigration reform, nothing on health care reform. There's been no spending or program cuts. All they have done is add debt upon debt upon debt. The debate now happens on social media, not on the House floor. Mean-spirited, divisive, it drives us apart as a nation. But I don't think we're as divided as some would like for you to think. I believe that there is a way to actually bring good government back to the U.S. And it's going to start by actually reaching across the aisle and finding those more conservative Democrats who actually want to improve things and save this nation. I have said that I am willing to actually reach across the aisle. I'll work as a moderate Republican. I believe that good debating issues and coming up with solutions that are good, not just for the people of Alabama, but good for this nation, is the right thing to do. Because if we don't do that, we're going to continue down the road that we're on today. And I do not believe that that's sustainable as a nation. Thank you.
Joshua.
My name is Joshua McKee, and I spent 25 years as a Green Beret and traveled to multiple countries across the globe representing American interest. I did that on a global stage for more than a quarter of a century. I've worked as a global executive at General Motors. I was a senior solutions architect for North and South America, again, representing not just companies, but people on a global stage. I've done that for, again, most of my life. And I've also built multiple businesses. I understand what it means to be a small business owner, and I also understand what it means to be a veteran. I earned the Bronze Star, and it's more important to me to be here to be a servant to you. You see, I was supposed to be dead, and when God gave me my life back and allowed me to help one more person, because that's all I wanted to do. I just wanted to serve. And when you get your life back, you don't waste it. And I'm not about to waste it. I want this to be about serving you. Yes, I have a tremendous amount of experience, and I'm going to use it to make sure that I help people. Regardless of the outcome of this race, my life will be about serving others and giving back and asking for nothing in return. One of the reasons why I'm not taking the congressional salary, and it will go back to the community, because we need people that are willing to serve. Our founding fathers said this was supposed to be a sacrifice, and a lot of them did sacrifice their farms to go up and represent the country. I'm willing to make the sacrifice to go up and represent each and every one of you. It's your opportunity on May 19th to elect someone that wants to be a true servant to you, to be available to you in multiple town halls, to make sure you can always reach me. Because if you can't get a hold of me, how is anyone supposed to do their job in representing someone that can't be reached? I will always be available to you. God bless all of you. I'm looking forward to tonight to talk about real solutions, not just echo the problems we all hear about every day. Thank you very much.
Representative.
Thank you, Jeff, and Rat's fine. We don't need a form. Thank you, though. Thank you all so much for having me tonight. This is a wonderful crowd, and I really appreciate this opportunity. I am Rat Marcus. It's been my honor and distinction to be a state representative for the last 8 years here in Alabama, but now I'm running for the 1st Congressional District to help President Trump pass his America First agenda, help and support Senator Katie Britt and the rest of the Alabama delegation advance Alabama's needs and priorities and make sure that we give the opportunities to the citizens of this district and this state. I can say that because that is exactly what I have done over the last 8 years as state representative. I've helped put more money in your pocket by cutting taxes. We've cut the grocery tax in half, which was the largest tax cut in Alabama history. We have reduced taxes in this state by $1.5 billion. We help small families, or young families rather, when we cut the sales tax on diapers and formulas, cut taxes for seniors and small businesses, and we protected our families and our children. Made sure boys did not play in girls' sports and boys didn't go into girls' locker rooms, and made sure that we didn't pay for or allow gender-affirming care in this state. And we made sure that parents were allowed and are able the opportunity to let their children be educated where they want to. And I will and have always supported our military, our veterans, and our law enforcement. I'm proud to say that I've been endorsed by Senator Katie Britt, Lieutenant Governor Ainsworth, and Speaker Nathaniel Ledbetter, because they know that we need a strong voice in Washington to help President Trump. And I am that voice. And I look forward to working with them in Washington. Thank you so much. My name is Rhett Marcus.
John.
All right, can you hear me okay? Good evening, everyone. Good evening, Baldwin County. Thanks for having me here. Chairman Kathy, thanks. And Baldwin County Republican Party, thanks for putting this on. Thank you, Ken Curtis and Jeff Poor, and everyone that's attending and everyone that's watching. Before I get started, I always like to ask, how many veterans do we have out there today? How many law enforcement? Keep your hand up. Law enforcement, firefighters, first responders, and spouses. We owe you a debt of gratitude, and we thank you, or I thank you, for your service and your sacrifice. I'm John Mills. I'm running for Congress in Alabama's 1st District. Washington is broken. That's why I'm running. It forgot who it works for. I'm a retired Navy pilot. I've served this nation for 45 years total, 26 in uniform, and then I continue to serve this nation for the Navy, and so that's the 45 years I have. So I'm an aviator, I'm an emergency manager, so I know what that's about, and Department of Defense and technology. So I've done it all. I know what crisis management is, and we can all agree on one thing, that Washington is in crisis. There's no doubt about that. Like I said, I'm a Constitution conservative. I believe our rights come from God, not government. And I believe we got to return to our constitutional government. We do not have a democracy. We have a republic. We even said it during the pledge, and to the republic for which it stands. We will lose it if we don't get back to constitutional control. About out of time, so I thank you very much for allowing me to be here this evening, and look forward to the questions. Thank you.
James.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is James Richardson. I'm a Marine Corps veteran from Headland, Alabama. It's about 10 minutes north of Dothan. I am not a career politician. I believe in the good book of James 1:19 that you have to be quick to listen, slow to speak, and slow to anger. And I feel that's what this district deserves, is a representative who's going to listen. And I take that quote to heart. Because if I can't listen to you, the people, how can I be your voice and represent you up in Washington, D.C.? I'm honored to be here this evening, and I look forward to answering your questions. Thank you.
Austin.
Good evening, everyone, and thank y'all for being here tonight. So, show of hands, who trusts Congress? Look around. Congress has failed us. So why would we put in the same people that have continually failed us? And the only way to get back that trust is through truth. Truth matters. We sit here and we keep putting people in who are puppeteered by political machines, who tell us talking points that don't actually affect the job that they're advocating to do. These people are selling us out to the special interests of D.C., and they are not representing our interests. Our founding fathers created a government, especially in the House of Representatives, that is singularly focused on the interests of the district that you represent. And that matters, and we need to get back to that. And the only way that we get back to that is you change who you vote for. The definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. I'm up here to ask you to do something different, to change, because my kids depend on it. That's why I'm running. I've got a 15-year-old, an 8-year-old, and a 4-year-old. And I told my 15-year-old before I ran, I do not know the America that he's going to be an adult in 3 years. That's how significant this election is. We have a president that's been continually assassinated. We have the left that doesn't know what a man or a woman is. And then we have Republicans that continue to get bought by special interest in DCs and don't actually accomplish any of the things that they tell us they're going to do. And the only way to get something done and to move forward in this country and to save the republic is to change who we are voting for. My name is Austin Sidwell, and I hope that you listen tonight. If you listen, you're going to tell what truth is. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Sidwell, for your comments as well as the others. I want to just expand on what Mr. Poore said a few minutes ago. I thank each of you for being part of the process in this country. It is even more difficult to get people into the arena of serving and debating the issues. So I applaud every one of you for being willing to put yourself and your time on the line for this primary. Two lawmakers in the last few days, one of them, Rick Scott from Florida, introduced a bill that would remove earning limits for those who are between the age of 62 and full retirement age. It would do away with what's called the retirement earnings test. In other words, right now, if you're 62 and start drawing Social Security, you would have to pay back $2 for every $1. You have to pay back $1 for every $2 you earn over $24,000 a year. This would do away with that. The bad side, it may drain an already strapped Social Security system. The good side, it would provide more income for these people. We begin with Mr. Deese. If the vote was held tonight, how would you vote on this issue, knowing how the elderly people are struggling to make ends meet in many cases?
I'm 62 years old and I'm working. I would love to start drawing my Social Security right now and still be able to work. I paid in on that. I have no issue with it. And if Social Security is so strapped that they're going to miss out on those few years of contributions, then we have bigger problems. And by the way, I think we do have bigger problems.
Mr. McKee.
Well, need to, yes, I'd like to vote for it. Let me just give good answers so we're not dancing around for all of these. Yes, I would support it. And the other thing is we need to look at what do we do with those people that are coming up so we don't have a problem on the tail end. We need to start privatizing Social Security and let people be responsible for their own money so they can invest it where they'd like to. And we need to start looking at real solutions for Social Security so it doesn't default in the next 5 years. Thank you.
Mr. Marcus.
Thank you for the question. Yes, I would vote in an affirmative. That is a yes. And it's because it is so difficult right now for everyone, but especially the elderly right now, to make ends meet. And so this would give them the opportunity to do that. So I definitely would be in favor of this bill. And also, I think we also need to look at reforming the Social Security the way it is, or we are going to default. We have an unfunded mandate in Social Security right now that this country, quite frankly, cannot handle. So thank you for the question.
Mr. Mills.
I'm also 62, so I am for getting that because I don't believe you should be penalized for working. So I would vote for it. Yes, it said yes to your question. So it looked like you were going to ask me something else. I'm sorry. Okay. So yes, I would vote for it, but you still got to be cautious of when you take it. 62, 67, 70. Just not saying that you should take it when you're 62, but at least it's there and it would supplement your income. So some people are suffering really bad, so it could really make a huge difference. And I get it, we got to figure out what to do with the up and coming, but it's our money. It's our money, so quit stealing it from us and let us take it when we want to take it. Thank you.
Mr. Richardson.
I would vote yes. And well, the true issue of this is actually the government keeps passing the buck and not dealing with the situation at hand. They want to pass it off to the next session. We need to get in there. We need to start focusing on Social Security because just like Mr. Mills said, that is our money. It's your money that you're putting into the system and they're using it where they shouldn't be using it. And they're not taking care of it like they're supposed to be taking care of it. They want the next session to go. Keep passing it off, passing it off. Oh, let someone else worry about it. Let someone else worry about it. No, it needs to be taken care of now and they need to be held accountable. Thank you.
Mr. Sidwell.
Well, considering I haven't read the bill, I can't answer that question with an affirmative. I don't know. I love the idea. It's the most un-American thing I've ever heard of to restrict a citizen's earning capability in any way. That's absurd. But Congress submits these bills and there's so much pork and so much fat stuffed into them. I don't know if I would vote yes on it. I would love to, but I don't trust our Congress not to stuff more stupid spending packages into these bills. So I'd have to read it first.
And finally, Mr. Carl on Social Security.
The straight answer is yes, but when you start making changes to Social Security or any other plan, and you allow the federal government and the Congress to start making alterations and changes, you got to be very, very careful. Because what are you going to get? Under Medicaid right now, a willing person wanting to work to get a job under Medicaid can only make X amount of dollars and they limit out. That stops them from ever being able to create a future of working. So I want to be very cautious in my yes. Like I said, well, I've not read the bill completely myself. I've heard the news report, but I would be very cautious turning that and starting making changes so frequently with Medicare, or with Social Security, I'm sorry.
All right, we'll move on to the next question. We'll start with Joshua this time around. This will have a very profound impact on Alabama, potentially. Today, the Supreme Court ruled 6-3 that a Louisiana redistricting map was a product of unconstitutional racial gerrymandering. What is your reaction to the decision, and how soon should the state of Alabama respond?
Well, that's up to the governor how fast she responds, and I think what's best for Alabama is to make sure that our districts are drawn in accordance with that, meet the people that live in those districts. Right now, we have a lot going on in District 1 from the Port Mobile all the way up to the Wiregrass and Peanuts, and you have tourism and manufacturing in between. So how is it to have a representative to cover all of these different areas, these daily lives of these people, if the district is drawn out like this. I think that it would be great for Alabama if we could turn around and get our districts back to the best representation possible for them. The sooner the better. Thank you very much.
Brett.
Thank you. I appreciate this question. It was a landmark case today that was ruled on, and it will have lasting effects. It will have a domino effect. The Louisiana case will go across the country. But right now, all I'm focused on is the 1st Congressional District. I grew up here in Baldwin County. I know this area. I live in the Wiregrass. I know how to represent both sides. This is the map that we have now. This is the Congressional District that we have now. I can't worry about what's going to happen in the future. I can't predict the future. I know what it is now, and I can represent this district, and I can get back and forth in this district, and I know that I can bring opportunities across from the beaches to the bay to the Wiregrass. And I look forward to going to Washington and helping President Trump and the rest of the Alabama delegation do just that. Thank you.
John.
Sure. So I understand the district the way it lies right now, and like the gentleman to my right had pointed out, the Wiregrass and the Baldwin and Mobile County are very, very different and have very different needs. So putting it back the way it was is not necessarily a bad idea, because you can better represent the new lines, if you will. As far as when they do it, I have no idea. I heard they could do it now, but the special session hasn't been called yet. So who knows when it'll happen. I think it'll be a little bit of chaos if it happens during this race, but I know what District 1 is. It goes from the Mississippi line all the way to the Georgia line. It's 9 counties. It's difficult to cover all that area. So whatever the decision is, I'm there. I'm always going to be there, and I'm always going to fight for the Constitution. So no matter where you put me, I'll be there. Thank you.
James.
Ultimately, for my Marine Corps service, if I'm told to do something, I pretty much end up doing it. Right now, I'm focused on the task at hand, which is the current Congressional District 1. What happens in the back, that's not my problem at the moment. What happens now is I focus on the people, and I focus on listening to the people. If they change the district, then I'll change and go towards that mission. But my focus will always be on the people and listening to the people. Thank you.
Austin.
So, as I believe the only one that's graduated from law school, I read this case this morning, and it made Section 2 and aspects of Section 2 unconstitutional when they don't meet the requirements. So actually, the avenue for the state to do something prior to the primaries is not through the governor's office, it's through the attorney general's office. Because there's a current appeal of the case a couple years ago that is on appeal, and we could file to have that brought back, and then we can apply the previous previous districts to this case. I'm all for that. I think as one of the candidates who hasn't taken dark money, it would negatively affect me, but for the people, you have to be represented in a district that actually matches up economically. So I'm all for it. We need to get it done, and as a supermajority, supposed conservative state, I would hope that we would be fighting for more seats in Congress.
Jerry.
Yes, thank you. I don't think anyone has suffered as much as I have through all these changes. I spent 2 terms in Congress, and both terms in Congress, my district was changed or altered in some way. The third one was when the 2 districts were merged together. I ran businesses for 40 years in multi-states. It's not rocket science to run this as one district. Wiregrass, the Gulf Coast, we can all work together under one congressman. It's not a problem. But what I do want to take advantage of is the opportunity for us as a Republican Party to take all 7 districts in this state. We've got districts in California and districts in Virginia that we're going to be losing. We've got to make it up somewhere, so let's make it up right here. Let's get the lines redrawn as quick as we can. Let's focus and let the Republican Party and the government focus on getting those lines redrawn, and let's take them back. Let's be a Republican state. That's who we are, and that's what we're about.
Jimmy.
To me, it's all noise. It doesn't affect what's going on during this campaign. If it means we send one more Republican to Washington, great. And if they actually deal with meaningful immigration reform, healthcare reform, if they actually address the amount of money that we're spending on debt and on programs where there's fraud and no one wants to address the fraud, then great, let's do that. But if it just means we're going to send one more person up there that's going to be the status quo, to me it's just all noise.
So, in Alabama, we have one of the lowest Medicare reimbursement rates in the country. Though a piece of medical machinery costs a doctor here, a medical facility here, the same thing as it costs in California. Florida and Georgia have higher reimbursement rates. District 1, you're never in District 1 and not more than a few minutes from Florida. I need not tell you the effect of this on health care, particularly rural health care in Alabama. I begin with Mr. Marcus and following with the rest of us. Mr. Marcus, as our representative in Washington, what could you do and what will you do to change this?
Well, we definitely have to fix the reimbursement rate. It is unfair right now. Alabama is 49th in the country right now. Mississippi is the only state that has the worst reimbursement rate than us. The blue states, the Democrat states, are making sure that they do not let us, as low cost of living states, get that reimbursement rate up. That's wrong. We need to fight for that. And, we have, as far as the rural health care is concerned, we have right now $200 million that has come in to help us with that. We need to make sure that we use that money wisely. The governor has set up a task force to make sure that goes into the rural hospitals to make sure we do not continue losing rural hospitals. Right now, you do not have an OBGYN from Montgomery on the I-65 corridor until you get to Baldwin County in Fairhope. That is unacceptable. People should not have to drive that far for care.
Mr. Mills.
It's absolutely unsaid that there's a difference between just from state line to state line. Other than Mississippi, Alabama, South Alabama is always finishing last. It should not be. So we need to get to the root of the problem and dig in. Why is it different from state to state? And we need to make it a level playing field. So when you send me up there, I will dig into it and I will fix it. And we'll make it an even playing field. We'll find the root of the problem. Thank you.
Mr. Richardson.
Let me ask you this. What makes one American different from another American? Absolutely nothing. We're all human beings at the end of the day. There should be no reason that a small town in Georgia, rural hospital, should get a $10,000 reimbursement, and the small town like Headland in Alabama only gets a $4,000 reimbursement when it's the same exact population but a different state. It's wrong. No American is above another American. And I will go and fix it.
Mr. Sidwell.
The problem is the third-party entities that are driving up the cost, right? We've allowed third-party entities to come in here and bolster the insurance profits while it hurts the rural hospitals and it hurts the patients. The other thing we need to do is open up insurance across state lines. Get the government out of dealing in insurance. That's not how free market works. And as conservatives, this all goes back to Obamacare. The Republicans have had the majority at least 3 times since Obamacare has passed, and we do nothing on health care. It's because one of the biggest lobbying interests is the pharmaceutical lobby in D.C. That's why we don't get anything done. These are the people that are paying for campaigns for Republicans too. Thank you.
Mr. Carl.
And this is where experience pays off. I can tell you what I have done. What I have done is when I went to the floors of Congress and we argued the reimbursement rates for the state of Alabama were so low compared to our competitors. The other states, Florida and New Orleans is what we used as an example when we made our arguments. We targeted the reimbursement rates. I was told I couldn't bring notes. I don't have notes. You're going to see the infirmary got close to $160 million more my numbers may be off. I'll provide them to you later. But it's called the Carl Amendment that was actually written up. We were able to shift those numbers around and get it approved through the House. And now it's sitting in the Senate. Sure, it'll have a different name coming out of the Senate. But those are the things that I have done. I don't have to tell you about what we should do, what we can do, what we should do. We did it. And we did it without raising one penny to the taxpayers across this nation.
Mr. Dees.
Follow the money. We spend in the U.S. around $15,000 per capita on health care. If you look at Canada, I think it's somewhere around 8,000. You look at Germany, I think it's around 7. And I think the UK too, somewhere around 7 or 8,000. Does anyone think that they get the best health care today? Does anyone think that? You feel great, all right? I think we probably have the best doctors and nurses in the world. But I can tell you, I don't think we have the best delivery system in the world. And the only way that we're going to fix this is to have a unified approach where health care is going to be provided by the government. You go, ooh, we can't do that. You have government health care today, and I hope I'm going to have more time to talk about that as we move forward.
And as we wrap up the discussion of Medicare reimbursement, we conclude with Mr. McKee.
Thank you. I think right now one of the things we're seeing is there's a tremendous amount of fraud. And how are insurance companies billing for Medicare? Well, right now it's based on a volume-based system. How many that the doctors can get out, but it's not based on value and efficiency and quality of care. So that's one of the biggest things we need to look at, is why are we not taking care of our elderly? Why are we not taking care of our community? And why is it based on how many tests someone has ran instead of the quality and efficiency of the care that we give them? That's a lot of the fraud waste that we have in there. We also have administrative billing issues that we need to look at. I can go down a list. I can tell you about tort. I can tell you about cross-state lines, insurance and privatization and things like that we need to do. But the real solution, the fastest impact that we can have, a realistic goal of what I can accomplish, is to invest in fraud detection, look at the fraud and the waste that's taking place, and make sure that we're billing appropriately so you guys get the best care possible. Thank you.
All right, we'll start with John here on this question dealing with the mud dumping issue, if you're familiar with that in the Mobile Bay. What are ways you as a congressman can reinforce what the state of Alabama has done to stop the mud dumping in Mobile Bay related to dredging for port expansion?
What I do is your congressman, so I would dig deeper into the issue, and it needs to be dug into. So I would look, and as everyone said on these other issues, you follow the money and then you get your answer. So I think it's misrepresented. I mean, it's a problem and we need to dig deep into it and fix it. That's about all I'm going to say on it. So.
Thank you, James.
Unfortunately, I am not familiar exactly with all the details of the mud dumping, and I don't want to give an incorrect answer.
All right, thank you for that. Austin.
So as someone that grew up fishing on Mobile Bay, we've dumped and created islands for my entire life. The problem with this unnecessary regulation is that it's going to cost us now more money to get to dredge any projects, private, public, anything. It's just a bigger cost on the taxpayer. And it's unnecessary regulation, and as conservatives, we're supposed to be fighting for less government, not more government regulation.
Jerry.
So in the dredging of the ship channel, you're dealing with silt, and that silt naturally runs in, and we have to do reoccurring dredging. That's what the real question is. I think there's so many things we can do with that dredge material. I think Senator Britt just came out with a $30 million expansion where they've got some money that they can use towards it. That's a great idea and a great start. But I think we need to start looking at how we can use some of that on our shorelines. I know Mobile Bay has got some issues with their shorelines washing away. There's other uses we can use it for other than just taking it out to sea and dumping it.
Jimmy.
So part of being a good corporate citizen, and by the way, we're all corporate citizens, is protecting the environment. So I think it's good. We don't want to be ruining Mobile Bay. But part of the issue is going to be the volume. The volume of what we're actually taking out. And it may be cost prohibitive around how far we actually take it out of the Gulf. And I like what Jerry said around the placement. We need to look at other opportunities of where to place this waste. I worked in the oil industry for almost 40 years, and we always had to deal with what we call tailings. And we came up with, pretty smart ways of how to use that tailings rather than putting it actually back into the water system. So again, we just need to come up with other ideas of how to actually use this.
Joshua?
Thank you. The impact has been tremendous on hurting our oyster beds, our fishing community, and I'm glad that we're trying to get that under control. I actually had a conversation before I got up here tonight. Someone asked me about this also. What can we do? What are real solutions? Look at what we could do with the material. We mentioned everything from being the peanut capital of the world right here in District 1 and the nutrients that come out of that dredged material. We shouldn't be dumping in the bay. In fact, we're going to have a problem now is we've got to figure out how to restore some of the damage we've done there. I mean, the oyster beds were unbelievable, and we've killed off a lot of them. And our fishing community has had a tremendous impact along the shoreline. So my focus is, hey, how do we help them? How do we make sure we get that back on track? And there's ways that we can do this where it benefits the community as a whole. Thank you.
Red?
Thank you. I really appreciate this question. I was honored to work with Senator Chris Elliott on this bill to make sure that the bay was taken care of. It was called Save the Bay, and we allowed 30% of the dredged material to go back in, but 70% of that material that they were putting right back in the bay, that was killing the oyster beds, that was killing the workers that worked on the bay, the shrimpers, the fishermen, the seagrass. We made sure that 70% of that dredged material was used for beneficial use, like building islands, building and restoring land and shoreline. That beneficial use is going to save the bay. The fact that they were putting the mud back in the bay and dispersing it out, it was called thin layer placement or mud dumping, was killing the people that live on the bay, that work on the bay, and those of us who enjoy the bay. So I was proud to carry that piece of legislation. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Marcus. We'll aim our next question first at Mr. Richardson. This part of the state is beautiful, the Mobile Bay area. Southeast Alabama, Dothan, Enterprise, Fort Rucker. But midway between, we have Covington County, and they're not talking about the Mobile Bay. They're not talking about Fort Rucker. They're talking about a carbon storage plant that is planned for that part. 74 acres of carbon storage is being proposed there. Obviously, there's a good side, but there's also a downside. Tonight, I begin with Mr. Richardson to get your thoughts on this and what you think should be the outcome.
Honestly, I think we need to look towards our future generations and what we're doing today. A carbon dump, from my understanding, is that they're going to, about a mile or two, possibly down underground, underneath the limestone and the bedrock. They're trying to dump it and basically leave it there, and hopefully, 100 years from now, it's not going to leak up and get into the groundwater and everything. Obviously, we're not going to be here in 100 years, but our children are, and our grandchildren, and our great-grandchildren. And I just think it needs a lot more research, and I think it needs a lot more community involvement to really understand the impacts that it's going to have on these local communities in Covington County.
Mr. Sidwell.
So I was the only candidate that was actually at the Florala Town Hall back in January when this was discussed, and it's about the community. They don't want this. We can get into the environmental regulation and how worthless it is to take carbon dioxide out of the sky and pump it into the ground for no reason other than to hurt our groundwater, but it's about the community. We the people still get to choose what goes on in our community. The federal government does not have the authority to come into our community and potentially ruin it for future generations without our say-so. And that's what we have to look to. We have to have representatives that actually understand our communities and are willing to be their advocate and their voice, even at the local level when it doesn't involve the federal government.
Mr. Carl.
I think our state really missed it on this one. I think the state should have sent out some type of notification. I know in the county we have to give a 45-day notification before a project of any size gets started, and I think the state really missed it. Somebody missed it. It needs to be shown more. I think the dumping there is going to be a real problem for the state of Florida. I think you're going to see the state of Florida turn out on that. I have been up there. I did not get to attend the meeting Mr. Sidwell was talking about, but I have met with the farmers there. I'm endorsed by the Farm Federation, and they are strictly against it. They are against their land being taken over and their drinking water. The drinking water seems to be the biggest issue. My question is how much federal money is involved in this? I don't know. Is this some of that green energy money? Is there a way we can cut that green energy money off and be able to keep our land?
Mr. Dees.
So most of the carbon emission requirements are set by the state. They're not set so much at a federal level, but a state level. So if we expect businesses to reduce their carbon footprint and actually capture this carbon, guess what? You got to do it somehow. And there's only so many geological structures around that can actually capture this. If you don't want it captured, then change the law. Change the expectation that you have of businesses. Another thing, companies want to reduce their carbon footprint because it makes them look like a more, environmentally sensitive company. That's why you've got the solar farm over in Stockton. It's because there's a company that actually wants to offset their carbon footprint by building and installing the solar. And you're going to see it across the country, whether it's solar or wind. But it's all around reducing that footprint.
Mr. McKee.
Well, I think we're over-regulated, don't you? How many more regulations do we need? The regulations are driving this. Subsidies to corporations are driving this. Right now, there isn't enough long-term data, and the damage that this could cause to the Florida aquifer is a big thing right now that we see. I'm tired of regulations. I'm tired of the government telling us what we need to do. We need to turn around and start cutting this nonsense out. Yes, the state has regulations that are driven, but right now you've got a private organization that's trying to put a pipeline in to get federal subsidies, which are our tax dollars, and then they're going to use federal eminent domain to take private property, which is against the law, but yet they continue to do it because no one's willing to stand up for anybody. Enough is enough with the regulations, the subsidies that pay back these big donors that come in. I'm over it. I know every single one of you are. And this, right now, I met with someone. It is a sore spot with me because I'm so tired. This is happening out west also, where the federal government, state governments are now using eminent domain for private companies. Thank you.
Now, Mr. Marcus.
Thank you, sir. Yes, Representative Hammond and Senator Carnley have been working on this very closely and watching it. They both dropped bills for constitutional amendments that would not allow this to happen in Covington County, and I think they're onto something there. But the fact is, the EPA is still not allowed a permit of this carbon storage anywhere. It started in Louisiana. They still have not given a permit there. They have not permitted the one in Covington either. There's a lot that needs to be studied on this. This is a long-term use project, so it definitely needs to be looked at. The people of the Covington County, if they don't want it, then they should be able to vote to not allow it. Thank you.
And we conclude the answers from our candidates on the proposed 74,000 acre carbon storage facility in Covington County with the comments of Mr. Mills.
Oh, I thought you were skipping me. I was waiting for this question. I'm actually going to trip your rebuttal, your 60-second rebuttal, and give two gentlemen 60 more seconds. You'll find out in a minute. I've been following this for a couple of years, actually. It started in the Midwest. You talk to folks in Iowa and South Dakota, and the farmland is being stolen through eminent domain. It's corporate driven. It's through tax credit. It's line item 45Q, and they can sell off these tax credits. There's a lot of money involved. And it's through eminent domain, and they're picking on Covington County first. So if Florella has a team, watching the time. If Laura has a team, Op has a team, and we're going to fight back. And my question to two gentlemen here is, gentleman to my right, Red. I'd like you to talk about House Bill 327, your vote a couple years back, and then Carl, when you were in office, your vote 4824.
This is not the format we agreed to.
Oh, I thought you could bring it up, and they would give us. That's what Kathy told me. So.
Right, but that's not in the spirit. It's pertaining to the issue of what they're talking about.
Okay, my time was up anyway, so sorry. I tried to give you 60 more seconds.
We'll continue one more round with each of you having the opportunity to answer the question. Then we're going to go to a different round where each of you will have an opportunity to answer each question individually, and then we'll conclude. But Mr. Ralston, we'll start with you. As Congressman, what will you do to expedite the construction of a new I-10 Mobile River Bridge in Bayway?
I'll actually get the federal government to appropriate the right funds, federal funds, to fund a interstate highway. Right now, they're forcing that on the states. When this is an interstate, it affects multiple states. The federal government has a responsibility to fund that project. But we have to bring it down and make it reasonable. I've seen $5 billion, I've seen $4 billion. We need to bring that down to something reasonable because it is still our money being used, but it's the federal government's responsibility. It's not the taxpayer's responsibility to fund that through a toll. This is going to put our state in debt, significantly in debt. Not to mention it's going to take $250 million away from an ALDOT project that's supposed to extend the Beach Express to 65, which we need for hurricane evacuations. So the federal government needs to take ownership of its responsibility to appropriate the funds fully for this project.
Thank you. Jerry?
So the I-10 River Bridge I worked 14 years on. You can take all the knowledge here to my left and add it together, and you're not going to get as much as I've got on that bridge. I actually voted for the original contractors. I was part of that process. I've been part of the process of the drawing of the bridge itself. The problem with the bridge is every time we think we get close enough with money, the price goes up. Something has been added. That is the true frustrations of it. And when I was in Congress, I made the argument that this is a national defense issue. Because if we've got to move weapons from Jacksonville, Florida to San Diego, California, it's got to go over that bridge. It can't go around through the Cochran Bridge. Theoretically, it can't work with the traffic we've got. We have argued it. Bradley Burns, Congressman Burns has argued it. We have to keep arguing it with the federal government. As of today, I understand we need $1 billion of federal money and we can build that bridge. I do not want to see a toll on it also. The toll is a bad idea. It was a bad idea when it started. That's why I got up in the middle of the toll meeting and left. So we've got to raise the money. Got to on the federal level.
Thank you. Jimmy?
So I drive on that bridge every day, twice. And the original design could have been improved upon, but that's neither here nor there. We only have several $100 billion at the federal level to spend on infrastructure. What makes this project more important than other projects? I think it all needs to kind of be thrown in, and those projects are triaged, and wherever the Mobile Bridge comes out, it comes out. I still believe that possibly making it a toll bridge or having some type of, a lot of the roads in Mobile, or I'm sorry, a lot of the roads in Alabama are built today kind of a pay-as-you-go at the state level. You could look at that at the state and the federal level. So there's not as much of an outlay initially, but more of a pay-as-you-go as the project actually moves forward. Thank you. Joshua?
Well, the federal government has the money. I mean, think about it. How many hundreds of billions of dollars have we sent to Ukraine, a war that, what did it net us? What was the return on investment for those tax dollars? But right now, you want to put the state and put it on them to build a bridge as a federal responsibility? No, I'm tired of the fraud. I'm tired of all the wasteful spending. And we turn around and we find all this fraud up in D.C. And what do we do with it? What has been done with it? Who's in jail? See, those are things that I want to fix. And right now, there shouldn't be any problem to get the federal funding to build the bridge. You asked me what's the fastest thing I could do is make sure, one, we got the money allocated, it's there. The other thing is to make sure that we have transparent awarding of government contracts, so we can ensure that these contracts are awarded and we know what we're paying for the bridge as taxpayers in the federal government. We need transparency.
Red.
Thank you. Great question, by the way. In 2018, President Trump had an Infrastructure Act that he tried to pass through Congress. This is exactly why you need someone like me to go up there and help him, because he couldn't get it through. And that was a problem then, it's a problem now. We need a federal-state partnership to continue to make this bridge happen. Right now, we have the money in place. There's about $550 million that has already been allocated to start putting footers down, and Oslo has already started clearing the parking lot. So we need to start today. We should have done this 5 years ago. Every day that we do not do this is more money. We need to start today. And I will go to Washington, D.C. to make that happen.
John.
Sure. No one had told us, yes, we need the new bridge, and yes, we should go up there and fight and be a voice and be heard, and let them know that we need a bridge, not just other states that need a bridge. Once again, South Alabama is being left out. We need to make our voices heard, and we need to have cooperative effort with the federal and the state levels to build that bridge. And you can also bring corporate into it too. You can give incentives. You can make it. You need a new bridge. Don't ignore it. Let it go, build it, and there we go.
Thank you. James.
Ultimately, I don't believe in increasing the deficit of the federal government, but I do believe that this is a national security matter which is at the federal level. This bridge needs to be built, but it needs to be built with transparency. Everyone needs to know exactly where every single one of those pennies is going, because it's your tax dollars. You need to know what those companies are linked to, who's pocketing the money, who's behind the money. Is it a relative of a mayor? Is it a relative of your commissioner? You need to know, so it needs to be transparent so that the government can be held accountable, because those are your tax dollars.
Thank you, Mr. Richardson. At this time, we're going to go to one question for each candidate, and the questions as we move, beginning with Mr. Carl and to his left, each question will be different. In Mobile area, you're talking about toll roads. If you want to come to Dothan, we'll let you ride for free over there. But in Dothan, they're talking about making ends meet. The federal minimum wage is $7.25 an hour. That will buy you a pound of ground chuck. My question to you, and I understand there's both sides of the issue, state issues, free enterprise issue, but in Washington, would you vote to up the federal minimum wage from $7.25 an hour, Mr. Carl?
No, I will not, because the minimum wage is exactly that, minimum wage. It should be an encouragement for people to actually go and do better with their lives, to try to move up a chain of their job skills. It encourages. $7.25 was originally set up for young kids that wanted to work in restaurants and such. We have got to encourage and quit talking about we're 57th on this list and start talking about the positive part of America and encouraging these people that are making $7.25 to want to make $10 an hour. But to have that mandated by the federal government, I don't think helps it a bit. Would I like to see people make $10 an hour? Of course I would. They need it worse now than they ever have in history. But to mandate it from Washington, I cannot go along with that, no sir.
Jimmy, the Trump policy on tariffs is used in the name of national security. Do you support these trade policies? Do you support the use of tariffs, and do you think that they have been effective in achieving his stated objectives?
I believe that focused tariffs are a good thing. I believe the way that we are applying tariffs today, almost as a penalty for countries not necessarily agreeing with us, that's the wrong thing to do. Recognize that tariffs, we end up paying for those, okay? Because goods cost more. We pay for them. The the customer, we the individual who goes out and shops, ultimately those tariffs make it down to us. What we did with China, you know what, I can kind of get my head around that. But a lot of the other tariffs that we have, certainly with partners that we've had, allies that we've had, over the last 100 years, what we're doing there, I believe is nonsense. It's just politics.
Mr. McKee, it seems every year Washington and states are arguing about daylight savings time. Some states have voted to change theirs, but they're waiting on the federal government. Your stand on daylight savings time, and if the federal government should approve going to a unified system, no matter what that system is.
I know I was going to say, I appreciate this. If you want to ask me a harder question, you can. No, I think we need to get rid of it and just stick with a standard time. And we need to get there. There's a lot of things let's talk about. Daylight savings time, it had its place in time. We are past that now. Let's turn around and stop changing our clocks and just stick to the time.
Brett, if you're elected to Congress, what committees would you seek to serve on and why?
Thank you so much for this question. This is one of the things that I get asked the most about. First, this has everything to do with the 1st Congressional District, and that is ag. Ag is important from the Wiregrass to Baldwin County to South Mobile. It is important that we continue to help our farmers. We are losing 225,000 farms across this country a year. That is unacceptable. We have got to make sure that our food supply is taken care of, because our food supply is national security. We cannot buy our food from outside this country. The second one would be armed services. Armed services is very important in this entire district. Of course, Fort Rucker and the Wiregrass, but you have Austell here in Mobile, and I would strongly support our military and our defense. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Marcus. I'll make sure the next question is not a softball.
Why not?
Mr. Mills, if you're elected to Congress, would you be willing, if it represents the values and beliefs of your constituents, and I ask you to think about your answer very carefully, would you be willing to break with party leadership, even if the party would no longer back you because of that break?
No, this is actually a softball question for me, so I'll answer it without thinking about it. I would break party lines. I am not about party over our nation. I'm sorry. If they're voting unconstitutionally, sorry, you're way out of line. So when you talk about crossing the aisle, crossing the lines, how do you know what the lines are? There are a lot of Republicans that are not conservative. There are a lot of Republicans that are rhinos that only put an R behind their name. So when you say break party lines, or you don't follow what leadership says, that's a joke for me to say leadership up in Washington. You got to be kidding me. I understand, like the speaker and their positions. I wouldn't call it leadership by any means. So breaking a party line, if it's necessary, I represent all of these people, all the people of South Alabama. I don't represent Washington, D.C., the bureaucrats, or people on K Street. I represent all of you. So, of course, I'm going to bring up your values and fight for you. And if that means I break a party line and I lose friends, I'm not going there to make friends. So, time's up. Thank you for the question. It was a softball question for me.
James, there are pros and cons to longevity in Congress. Where do you line up on term limits?
Ultimately, where I stand on term limits is I believe the founders had it correct when they gave the power to the people. At the end of the day, it's up to the people to stand up and decide who they want to represent them in office. And if someone is doing a good job for them, and the system is legal and it's not gerrymandered or rigged, then I am all for the people having that choice and not setting a term limit, because at the end of the day, that's how our founders had it. It's the people's choice.
Mr. Sidwell, there continues to be differing opinions and a multitude of views about TikTok and data transfers. You follow that. Your thoughts on that and the role of the federal government, if any?
The only role the federal government has in TikTok is national security. So if it's owned by a Chinese corporation, they're using that to spy on us, then absolutely we should restrict it. I actually thought that the plan to have an American company buy a subsidiary was a pretty decent solution to that. In a perfect world, I don't want the federal government in any of our private institutions, but that was a pretty decent response to that. How do we rebut another answer? Just asking.
If they mention your name, you get a minute.
It's just mentioning the name. We can't actually
Right.
rebut the substantive
So you have a
things.
chance to right now before your
Okay.
time expires.
What does someone who hasn't served in the armed forces going to do on the armed forces committee? We're tired of empty promises. What do you know about Fort Rucker and the armed forces that makes you qualified to serve on the armed forces committee?
All right, we are now going to move on to closing remarks. We're going to start with Jerry down here on the end and work our way to Austin at the very end. You have 1 minute each for a closing remark.
Well, thank you. And thank you for everybody for getting out tonight and coming and joining and trying to get an idea for the interview that we've had tonight. We've got 7 wonderful guys. We're obviously very different in so many ways. But I think my 40 years in private business, my 8 years in local government, and my 4 years in federal government sums it up. I understand the bridge, I understand the dredging, I understand the Port Authority, I understand serving on the Port Authority. I grew up in the port, pushing boats with my dad as a kid and tugboats. You start talking about the wiregrass. The Farm Federation picked me for a reason because I am very connected with our farm community and I'm quick to jump on needs that they have in Washington. So come May the 19th, look for experience. Look for the guy with the 2 first names. Vote Jerry Carl for Congress. Thank you.
Jimmy.
I cannot believe that we haven't talked about the national debt tonight. All right. So we need to recognize that we have a broken fiscal policy. I know I've only got a minute. Go in and read the Treasury Department's fiscal year 2025 report. 8 times it says, the Treasury Department says that our current fiscal policy is not sustainable. It's not sustainable. And no one is asking any questions. We have issues with healthcare. Our healthcare system is broken. It's not just broken, it's broke. We are $88 trillion in debt to these programs. Social Security and healthcare, $88 trillion. And no one wants to talk. There's no common sense. If you send me to Washington, I'll set spending limits at 2025 actuals, and I'll force departments, if they need more money, go find fraud and get it out.
Joshua.
Thank you for being here. I'm glad that we could do this, and I'm hoping we get to do this more often after I win in May or possibly June if there's a runoff. But I'm here to serve you. And we did talk a lot about state issues tonight, and they did kind of get into the federal government a little bit, but there is a lot of federal issues out there that we need to discuss, and we need to hear from you. And I'm looking at representing you as a servant, not a politician, but a servant to you. And that is the most important thing you can take away from here tonight, is you got an opportunity to elect someone that wants to serve you, not anybody else, to be your representative, that you get to do this multiple times. So thank you very much, and I do have a lifetime experience in militaries and global representation of American interests, but right now the only interest I care about is yours, and to make sure that you got a representative, and that's what's important. So on May 19th, please vote for Joshua McKee. Thank you so much.
Brett.
Thank you. It has been great to be with y'all tonight. You've heard a lot of ideas, a lot of different thoughts, but at the end of the day, I have a proven conservative record. I've cut taxes by $1.5 billion here in the state of Alabama. I have protected the families and the children of the state, and made sure that the military, the veterans, and the law enforcement were supported. We haven't talked about it tonight, but election integrity. We made sure that we had the strongest election integrity in this country. And, at the end of the day, we need to send someone to Washington, D.C. to help President Trump pass his America First agenda, make sure that the Alabama delegation has forward and continue to move it forward. And I appreciate this opportunity to tell you that I want to take Alabama common sense to Washington, D.C. My name is Rep. Marcus, and I humbly ask for your vote on May 19th.
John.
Thank you all for being here tonight. I appreciate you coming out and listening to us. I think you should look deeply into all 7 of us candidates. The primary is going to determine it. The general is just formality. One of us up here will represent all of you in January of next year. So it's very, very important to vote in the primary. Get your friends, your family, and your neighbors, everybody to come out in the primary. Typically in our presidential year, we have a low turnout. We need a good turnout. We're representing not only down here on the shorelines, but up in Wiregrass. There's a lot going on. Election integrity, it wasn't brought up and I was surprised, but that is my #1 issue. If we don't have control over elections, what do we have control of? So there are issues across the nation with election integrity. I am endorsed by Dr. Douglas Frank, who's deep in election integrity, and Mike Lindell, who's supporting Donald Trump on election integrity. And my 2 choices are armed services and VA. VA is the one that no one wants to get on, but that's the one that I want on with my background. Thank you.
James.
Good evening, and thank you again for having me this evening. I just want to leave you all with one lasting impression. Freedom is not free. For 250 years, men and women have given all so that we can be here this evening. Each and every one of you, when you stand up May 19th, you tell your friends, tell your neighbors, get out and vote. Doesn't matter who you vote for, just vote, because men and women have died for that. And you're the heroes that keep that memory alive when you get out and you vote. And I think a lot of people tend to forget that. I'm James Richardson, and I'd be honored for your support May 19th. Thank you, and God bless.
And Austin.
So when I think about this election, I look at the 18 to 20% that's expected to show up in this primary. And one of my favorite books is Simon Sinek's Start With Why. So we have to look at the why. It's not a system failure. Our Constitution is the greatest government document ever created. We have a people problem in D.C. We have people that have sold out your interest to stay up there 20, 30 years, not to work for you, but to enrich themselves and continue this bureaucracy that allows them to do it year after year. We have got to choose differently. If we do not choose differently, it doesn't matter how great our Constitution is, because they're taking it from us. And Republicans are a part of the problem as well. It's essentially a uniparty at this point. But it's up to the voter to say this. So I ask y'all to vote for me on May 19th. I'm not connected to anything. I'm here for you. Thank you.
Gentlemen, thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, a round of applause for our candidates tonight.
And we do thank all of you for being with us. As you guys mentioned, we